I Magi viaggiano verso Betlemme. Il loro pellegrinaggio
The Magi traveled towards Bethlehem. Their pilgrimage speaks also to us. We are called to journey towards Jesus, for he is the North Star that lights up the sky of life and guides our steps towards true joy. Yet where did the Magi's pilgrimage to encounter Jesus begin? What made these men of the East set out on their journey? They had excellent reasons not to depart. They were wise men and astrologers, famous and wealthy. Having attained sufficient cultural and social economic security, they could have remained content with what they already knew and possessed. Instead, they let themselves be unsettled by a question and by a sign. Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star. They did not allow their hearts to retreat into the caves of gloom and apathy. They longed to see the light. They were not content to plod through life, but yearned for new and greater horizons. Their eyes were not fixed here below. They were windows open to the heavens. As Benedict XVI said, the Magi were men with a restless heart. They were filled with expectation, not satisfied with their secure income and their respectable place in society. They were seekers after God. Where did it originate, this spirit of healthy restlessness that led them to set out on their journey? It was born of desire. Let us think about this. To desire means to fuel the fire that burns within us. It drives us to look beyond what is immediate and visible. To desire means to embrace life as a mystery that surpasses us, as an ever-present cranny in the wall that beckons us to look into the distance, to go beyond, since life is not just here and now, but something much greater. It is like a blank canvas that cries out for color. A great painter, Vincent van Gogh, once said that his need for God drove him to go outside at night and paint the stars. For that is the way God made us, brimming with desire, directed like the Magi toward the stars. We can say, without exaggerating, that we are what we desire. For it is our desires that enlarge our gaze and drive our lives forward, beyond the barriers of habit, beyond banal consumerism, beyond a drab and dreary faith, beyond the fear of becoming involved in serving others in the common good. Our life, as St. Augustine said, is an exercise of holy desire. Brothers and sisters, as it was for the Magi, so it is for us. The journey of life and faith demands a deep desire and inner zeal. Many times, we live a spirit of being parked. We're parked without this impetus to move forward. We do well to ask, where are we on our journey of faith? Have we been stuck all too long, nestled inside a conventional, external, and formal religiosity that no longer warms our hearts and changes our lives? Do our words and our liturgies ignite in people's hearts a desire to move towards God? Or are they a dead language that speaks only of itself and to itself?
È triste quando una comunità di credenti non desidera più e stanca si trascina.
It is sad when a community of believers loses its desire and is content with maintenance rather than allowing itself to be startled by Jesus and by the explosive and unsettling joy of the gospel.
Ha chiuso la porta del desiderio.
It is sad to see when a priest has closed the door to desire.
Nel funzionalismo clericale.
It is sad to fall in a sort of clerical functionalism.
Molto triste.
It's very sad.
La crisi della fede nella nostra vita e
The crisis of faith in our lives and in our societies also has to do with the eclipse of desire for God. It is related to a kind of slumbering of the Spirit, to the habit of being content to live from day to day, without ever asking what God really wants from us.
sulle mappe della terra e ci siamo scordati di alzare lo sguardo verso il cielo.
We peer over earthly maps too much and forget to look up to heaven. We're sated with plenty of things, but fail to hunger for what we are missing. This nostalgia for God. We are fixated on our needs, on what we will eat, and what we will wear, even as we let the longing for greater things evaporate. And we find ourselves living in communities that have everything and crave everything, and too often feel nothing but emptiness in their hearts. People who are closed, priests who are closed off, consecrated who are closed off for the lack of desire. This leads only to sadness and indifference. It's so sad to see priests who are sad, sad bishops. Let us look first to ourselves and ask, how is the journey of my faith going? We can all do this. How is the journey of my faith going? Is it parked or is it moving forward? Faith, if it is to grow, has to begin ever anew from desire. It must be sparked by desire, to take up the challenge of entering into a living and lively relationship with God. Does my heart still burn with desire for God? Or have I allowed force of habit and my own disappointments to extinguish that flame? Today, brothers and sisters, is the day we should ask these questions. Today is the day we should return to nurturing our desire. How do we do this? Let us go to the Magi and learn from the school of desire. They'll teach us in their school of desire. Let us look at the steps they took and draw some lessons from them. In the first place, they set out at the rising of the star. The Magi teach us that we need to set out anew each day in life as in faith. For faith is not a suit of armor that encases us. Instead, it is a fascinating journey, a constant and restless movement. We need to also use discernment in this journey, in this search for God. Then, in Jerusalem, the Magi ask questions. They inquire where the child is to be found. They teach us that we need to question. We need to listen carefully to the questions of our heart and our conscience, for it is there that God often speaks to us. He addresses us more with questions than with answers. We need to think about this. God speaks to us more with questions than with answers. Yet let us also be unsettled by the questions of our children and by the doubts, hopes, and desires of the men and women of our time. The path forward is to let oneself be questioned. We need to entertain these questions. The Magi defy Herod. They teach us that we need a courageous and prophetic faith, one that is unafraid to challenge the sinister logic of power and become seeds of justice and fraternity in societies where in our day modern Herods continue to sow death and slaughter the poor and innocent amid general indifference. Finally, the Magi return by another way. They challenge us to take new paths. Here we see the creativity of the Spirit, who always brings out new things. In this moment, it's also one of the tasks of the Synod that we are doing, to journey together, to listen to one another, so that the Spirit can suggest to us new ways and paths to bring the gospel to the hearts of those who are indifferent, distant, without hope, yet continue to seek what the Magi found, a great joy, to go beyond, to go forward. At the end of the Magi's journey came the climactic moment. Once they arrived at their destination, they fell down and worshipped the child. They worshipped. Let us never forget this. The journey of faith finds renewed strength and fulfillment only when it is made in the presence of God. Only if we recover our taste for adoration will our desire be rekindled. For our desire for God can grow when we place ourselves in His presence. For Jesus alone heals our desires. From what? From the tyranny of needs. Indeed, our hearts grow sickly whenever our desires coincide merely with our needs. God, on the other hand, elevates our desires. He purifies them and heals them of selfishness, opening them to love for Him and for our brothers and sisters. This is why we should not neglect adoration. Let us spend time before the Eucharist. It's not a common thing among us to adore in silence. So let us not forget it, please.
Nell'andare così ogni giorno, lì avremo la certezza come i magi che anche nelle notti.
And there, like the Magi, we will have the certitude that even in the darkest nights, a star continues to shine. It is the star of Jesus who comes to care for our frail humanity. Let us set out on the path towards Him. Let us not give apathy and resignation the power to drive us into a cheerless and banal existence. Let us have that unrest of the Spirit. The world expects from believers a new burst of enthusiasm for the things of heaven. Like the Magi, let us lift up our eyes, listen to the desire lodged in our hearts, and follow the star that God makes shine above us. And as restless seekers, let us remain open to God's surprises. Brothers and sisters, let us dream. Let us seek, let us adore.